The COVID-19 pandemic has affected every aspect of society globally. However, the burden of the pandemic's impacts is not shared equally. Extreme poverty and income inequality have increased, while gender inequality has deepened. Women have suffered disproportionately from the pandemic. According to ADB's 2022 study and subregional workshop on the gendered impacts of the pandemic, economic opportunities for women in Central and West Asia have decreased. More women than men lost businesses, jobs, and income. Women's health and well-being were affected with increased gender-based violence and declining access to health services. Women also carried a heavier burden of unpaid care work. These call for recovery strategies that safeguard and accelerate progress in gender equality. ADB has approached the pandemic with a gender lens in 5 key areas to mitigate the pandemic's impact on women and girls: increasing women's economic empowerment, enhancing gender equality in human development, enhancing gender equality in decision-making and leadership, reducing women's time poverty and drudgery, and strengthening women's resilience to external shocks. In Central and West Asia, gender-responsive recovery efforts by ADB and its partners build bridges toward gender equality. ADB allocated a comprehensive and diverse package of grants and loans worth about $3.45 billion for gender-responsive programs and projects to support government's pandemic response initiatives in Central and West Asia. These have strengthened health systems and supported healthcare workers during the pandemic, easing the burden on women who comprise the majority of frontline health workers. The projects provided women and men with social assistance like cash transfers and insurance, economic stimulus to support small and medium enterprises, of which many are women-owned, employment protection in sectors heavily affected by the pandemic, including hospitality and food services, and measures to improve food security. Addressing gender gaps and biases in pandemic response initiatives include gender-sensitive COVID response mechanisms, evidence-based gender-responsive policies and programs, and investments in women and girls in the areas of livelihoods and work, unpaid care and domestic work, and gender-based violence. Impactful approaches to address gender issues on livelihoods and work are access to land, supply chain and logistics support for women-owned MSMEs, mentorship programs for women entrepreneurs, financial and digital services, and higher skilled and non-traditional employment. Effective strategies to ease the burden of unpaid care and domestic work include providing education to women and girls via grants, implementing policies and legislation that strengthen women's employment rights, and raising public awareness on the social and economic costs of unpaid work. To address gender-based violence and promote essential health services, the following are needed: impactful approaches that include legislating gender-responsive budgeting, promoting legal literacy to educate women on their rights, organizing mobile response groups to aid survivors of domestic violence, and creating hotlines and building shelters for survivors of domestic violence. Staying connected with women who have received help ensures they get constant support. Our collective experience from the pandemic highlights intersecting gender inequalities and the need to protect the most vulnerable in society from external shocks. Working with developing member countries and development partners around inclusive post-COVID recovery, ADB ensures that no one is left behind as we move beyond the pandemic and pursue our transformative gender agenda for development.